Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Watch today as Satan is going to go to God school. And by extension, so are we. Now, to Satan's credit, this public ministry of Jesus was brand new to him, just like it is in the early parts of the gospel to us. And Satan does not have infinite knowledge. So he, in a sense, is also learning about this Savior, this Jesus. He's learning some very specific characteristics of Jesus that we're going to go through today in the temptation number 1. So Satan is going to God's school, and we are going to go to God's school here as well. So we best learn the lessons that we sort of condemn Satan for not learning. So we're going to look at the first temptation in the wilderness by Jesus. This is from chapter 4 of Matthew, starting in verse 1. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And after fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. And the tempter came and said to him, "If you're the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered him, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Now remember, Satan wants to be God, and he wants what only God can have, which is worship. He literally says at the end of this passage, he wants Jesus to fall down and worship him. It's ridiculous. And in his attempts to get that goal, he's not going to fight fair, and we'll see him lie and cheat and steal to get there. So Jesus is just back from the relational party that he had at the Jordan River, where God says, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I'm well pleased." And Satan here is either doubting the office of the Godhead, or he wants Jesus to misuse the powers of that office of being God. He wants to abuse this relationship of Son to Father, or abuse this willingness of Jesus to become human. So I think Satan is primarily saying, are you really going to do this human thing and join humans in their struggle? Now, it's critically important. In Philippians chapter 2, it says, Christ, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself. It's called the kenosis, taking on the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form. It's going to take this all the way now. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. So really what Satan's doing, he says, yeah, skip this human part. And essentially what he's also saying is then you won't be a suitable high priest. He's asking Jesus to take shortcuts on his taking this form of humanity. And we also know from Hebrews chapter 2 that he had to be made like his brothers in every respect, so that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in the service of God, to make propitiation for the sins of the people. For because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he's able to help those who are being tempted. So Jesus suffered on the cross for sure, but he also suffered when he resisted temptation. And why is that important? Well, for us, it's important because we're going to be tempted. And we're tempted to think, hey, we're alone in this, and we're the first person ever to have this temptation. But Jesus tells you here, I was tempted, and in a very human, and in this case specifically, in a very hungry way. And I chose to stand with humanity in that desert event. So I chose to stand with you in your temptation, and because I have done with this, I am able to help you when you go through your temptation. So if Jesus would have made bread out of these stones, he wouldn't have been able to help you when you have a temptation. So because I did not take the easy route, like poof, I made bread and succumbed to my temptation, my testing, my trial, I can now be help to you. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weakness, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. So we have to have a Savior who is tempted and tested, but is also without sin. So Satan here, I think, has misunderstood what it means to be God. in a sense, Satan is going to God school here. He's saying, hey, if I was God, I certainly wouldn't be tempted right now. Those stones would have already been bread, and I would have made bread, and I would have lived this cozy, God life. I wouldn't have taken on flesh in this way. I wouldn't be doing any suffering for sure. I would certainly not consider any substitutional sacrifice. So Satan is misunderstanding the lessons he's learned at God's school, and so let's review what Satan should have learned and what we should learn. Point number one: yes, I am God, and I have a Father, Son, Spirit, Trinity relationship with the other persons of the Trinity. Number two, I have chosen, this is Jesus talking, I have chosen to come down and empty myself of some of my heavenly prerogatives, to humble myself all the way to the cross. And specifically here, I've chosen hunger. Number three, I've chosen hunger and humanity. I need to be made like these knuckleheads, these humans, who he doesn't call knuckleheads, he calls brothers in every respect, so that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in the service of God to make propitiation for the sins of the people, to pay for those sins of the people. So here's the big point for today. If Jesus wasn't hungry in the desert, we would have no Savior. We would have no cross. So no hunger means I'm not going to be made like them. I'm not the perfect substitutionary sacrifice. If I don't bear this rumbly-tumbly in the desert, I certainly won't bear the beatings and the nails and the thorns of crucifixion. So no hunger means no cross. It's mind-blowing. Without this bearing of physical discomfort in the desert, without the enduring of this particular temptation, Jesus would not endure the cross. No hunger equals no cross. And then finally, we're going to get to this over and over again. Jesus fights this temptation by going back to the Word and says, it is written. So Satan goes to God's school and learns a lesson about the nature and sacrifice of Jesus that is going to be consistent all the way to the cross. The question for us is, do we learn that lesson today? Thanks for listening.